Good morning guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. Welcome back to the channel. I'm at the shop early this morning. It's Sunday morning. It looks like it's going to be an overcast day. There's no one around, so it's a good chance to do another unboxing of some old tools. This is a box that I've moved from next door that had been stored for a long time. Shouldn't take long to go through. There could be some interesting stuff in here, so let's have a look. This box was in a storage room next door. I'd purchased it a long time ago. I cannot remember packing it up. From the code, I know it's almost 10 years ago since I bought it. Looks like woodwork tools, a few mechanics tools. There could be some cool stuff in here. I don't think there'll be any scrap metal, but let's have a look through and just see what value we got. Before I start, any guesses? I'm thinking probably $100 worth, but I haven't looked through. So let's go through it and see what we find. Okay, now as usual, we will make a list at the end and add up some values. And we might even find a mystery object or two in here. I do have to do another mystery object video soon. This one is a wood brace. It's a drill. You know when you hear the term brace and bit? Well, this is the brace, and I think there's a bit in here. The bit being a drill bit. Oh, this one's actually broken on the end. So normally they have a square-shaped profile which fits in the chuck of these drills. They work really well still. They do sell just as a collectible. They're not overly valuable. I normally sell these at about $10. Some of them have a ratchet set up on the end. This one has, but it looks like it's a bit seized up. Some of them don't have a ratchet. But I think that's a $10 shed ornament, but it certainly can be used. The actual drills themselves, I often group up into a lot of 10 or so. They probably sell at about $1 each, and they sell pretty quickly. This one clearly cannot be used in this. Well, actually, I think it probably still could, but it would probably slip. Whereas that one would actually work in a normal drill because it's got the round shank. So, yeah, we'll leave those together, I think. We have some hammers in here. This is an engineer's hammer or a ball peen hammer. They sell okay. The handle's a bit rough here. It's probably the original hickory handle. Probably just $5 on that one. Now, hopefully we don't get too much of this terrible polystyrene noise. Now, here we go. This is some sort of hatchet hammer. It has some cross hatching on the end there. It's a little chipped on the sides. It's like a little axe blade here. So I think it's a general purpose little woodworking tool. I believe these notches are for pulling out nails, which you would just basically slide the blade under a nail and lever it up. If you know of any other use for these notches, let me know, but that's what I believe they are. It's probably an English one, probably braids or something. I think it has got a mark on there. Can't quite read that. But that would sell quite well, even regardless that someone's just basically found a bit of timber from the shed and jammed it in as a handle. I would think $20 on that one. People do collect hatchets and small axes and tomahawks, so we'll get 20 on that. We have one spanner. Doesn't look like there's any more spanners in there. That's a Sid Chrome. It's a Whitworth, 1/2 inch and 7/16 Whitworth. The Whitworth spanners do sell quite well, especially to people that are working on English machinery. And Sid Chrome, this would be an Australian Sid Chrome spanner, quite collectible. This particular size, and being an open-ended, they don't seem to sell as well as some of the other ones. The smaller sizes and the ring spanners do sell much better. I think just $5 on that one. Another hammer here. This is a specialised hammer. I'm not actually sure what type of hammer this one is. It looks to have almost a chisel type blade on the end. Large, I don't know if it's... No, I don't know. I'm not actually sure. It will have a name, I'm sure. Most hammers have a name. It's got a number 3 stamped in there. And there's some other marks I can't quite read. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's... I don't think it's an upholsterer's hammer. Anyway, I think that's a nice one though. I think we'd put probably $15 on that one. Okay, we have another one of these little hatchet things, much the same, although this one's very rough on the end. This metal actually looks like it's either been buried or it's been in a fire, but it has got a much better handle on it. We'd probably go $10 on that one. They're quite old tools, these ones. Here's an adjustable wrench. I think it's a Footprint brand, which are quite a well-known brand. It will be English. I can see a footprint there. They This is what I call a wrench. I know a lot of you Americans call a normal spanner a wrench. There's spanners here, but I would call this a wrench, an adjustable wrench. They're not fairly accurate. They're probably good for plumbing fittings and that sort of stuff. And the teeth need to be in good nick to actually bite into whatever you're trying to undo. So I don't know too many people that actually use these. It's more just a decorative item for your shed or your collection. Some people do collect the Footprint brand ones. I think $10 on that. More hammers, another engineer's hammer or a ball peen hammer. That's actually much better than the other one. The handle's quite nice. It's got a good weight to it, that one. I forget what we said for the other one, but I'd probably go 10 on that, I think. Let's stick with the hammers. This is a double-ended hammer. Now, I'm not sure what sort this is again. I'm not up with my hammer varieties. A little bit different. The handles are pretty rough. It's got a bit split out of there. I would say it's English again. Most of these old tools that turn up in people's sheds here tend to be English. Can't see a brand on that. Sometimes to clean these up, I'll just buff them on a wire wheel or use some coarse steel wool. But I'm not going to worry with these. They're actually clean enough. They're not really dirty. They're just a little bit of surface rust. So I don't know what sort of hammer that one is either, but it's kind of a cute one. I think we'd go 15 because it's a bit different. Now we have some concreters tools, some trowels. They're pretty rough. I'll get the other ones out. I think that's a pointing trowel. That's in better condition. And this one is for putting the expansion groove or the groove in your concrete path where a crack will follow if the path does crack. They're only tin or light pressed metal. They're not heavy quality ones at all. I did have some concreting tools the other day that were solid brass, but these aren't the same quality. I think that's all the concreting tools. So I do have a box of these sort of tools in the shop already for $10 a lot. I don't see much value in these. I would add them to my other box, or if I didn't have that box, I would probably just put them in a $1 a pick box. So I won't write down any value for those. What else do we have? Another little adjustable wrench. This one's quite a cute little one. I could see this being in a nice collection, all polished up. It has got a Footprint brand on it again. We'll see if we can get you a bit of a shot of that. Will we be able to do it from here? Just on that flat, I think you can see the footprint. Where are we? There. There's a footprint there. So that's the trademark of an English company. That's actually quite a nice little wrench. It seems to work well. I think that's probably a $15 wrench, that one. Here we have another spanner. This is an S-shaped spanner. It looks to be, it says light service wrench special. And there is a symbol there which may indicate, it could be a particular machinery spanner, this one. I think that's probably worth a little bit of a clean up with fine steel wool just to give it easier to read the markings. Bit unusual. I think we'd get $10 for that. Now I love using these old screwdrivers. They just seem to give you that much more leverage on the screw. The end has been a bit butchered here though. It probably needs resharpening. And the advantage of these ones I find is that if you get a really nice end and it slots into the screw really well, not only do you get good leverage off this handle, but you can actually put a spanner on the flat to help you turn it. And they're really good quality steel. So they're great screwdrivers. If you get a chance to pick up some of these, keep them in your shed because they're actually really useful. This one has looks like it's got a broad arrow here, Department of Defense broad arrow. And some markings as well. So again, we might give this a little bit of a clean up. The handle's a little rough, but I think I'd probably put $10 on that, particularly if it does actually looks like it might even be dated 1944. So a World War II Department of Defense screwdriver, I reckon that's $10. Yet another hammer. This one's a little bigger again, and the handle's in very good condition here. These are good quality steel. If you grab a cheaply made modern ball peen hammer, yeah, you have the weight. Chances are the handle will break pretty quickly because they don't use the same quality timber. But also you find that the actual steel will chip very easily or dent. These ones are a beautiful quality steel. I think we'd go 15 on that one. Getting to the bottom of the box, what's this one? These are sheep shears. The old-fashioned click go the shears. That's what that song refers to, these hand sheep shears. They're normally an English brand. This one does say Sheffield on it. These are in really good condition. They almost look like they've had a coat of lacquer because they're a little glossy. They haven't rusted, and it's got a bit of hay band to hold the blades together. Quite often, and what they used to do is just have a little square of leather with a slit in the middle, and that's what would hold the blades together. You kind of need to when they're in the toolbox, because if they spring open in the toolbox, they not only tangle around things, but you tend to cut your fingers trying to get them out. So they're really nice. They're fantastic around the garden for trimming up some weeds. They have a really nice guillotining, slicing action, so they're really handy, not to mention for shearing sheep. Being such a nice set there, I would get 15. Normally I put $10 on these. They are quite common, but that's a nice set. Okay, we have an axe head. Now, quite often axe heads crack because they get used as a wedge and people actually hammer them with a sledgehammer. This one has some marks on it, but it's actually not too bad. Now, the thing with axes is that they're not really worth a great deal unless you've got a nice brand. This one is branded, and I can see it says made in England, 2 3/4 pound, but there's actually no brand. Oh, hang on, there is down the bottom. There's a bit of a circle here. Bit hard to read. We might clean that up. It could be a plum axe. Depending on the brand, that could be quite a good one. I'd be thinking about $20 because it's got a fairly good blade. It's not cracked. It's made in England and branded, and we'll just see if we can read what actual brand it is. If I can't make out the brand, maybe 10, but if it is a plum axe or another well-known, maybe like a Kelly axe, I think we'd get 20, maybe even a bit more. Nice little piece that. We'll clean that up before the end of the video and see. This thing is a spoke shave. Some of them are timber. This one's cast iron. It'll possibly be a Stanley or something. I can't see a brand on it at this stage. We will give that a clean up. It's got the blade in it. The blade's not very sharp, but it's not chipped. That would probably be a $15 piece. And a spoke shave, pretty well as the name implies, was used to shave spokes for wheels or any other piece of timber that you wanted to sort of chamfer down so that, look, we could use it on this hatchet. We've got a square handle, which is totally impractical. We could actually use the spoke shave and make it round, but I won't. I don't have time. Now we have a bicycle pump. It has the fitting in the end, but it's not going to come out. It feels quite light. It's only plastic. I can't even see a brand on it, so I don't think there's any real money there. Sometimes the older English bike pumps sell quite well. This one actually still works. But I don't think it's anything particularly flash, and I can't get the end hose out. There's a fair chance the hose is actually perished anyway. For those that don't know about a bike pump, there's a short hose that slips down the end here, which you screw into that end, and then you can screw it onto your bike tube or whatever else you want to blow up. So the pump works, but it does need some attention. We might just throw that in the $1 box. I don't need those things hanging around. Okay, we have some more sheep shears here. These ones are not quite as good, but they still appear to work. We have our custom-made hay-band blade retainer. I think that's just a $10 set, not as nice as the other ones. We have a couple of, looks like oxyacetylene welding tips here. I did have some of these recently, and I did a bit of checking. They don't seem to sell very well on eBay. I'm not sure if we'd get much for them. I have a feeling the threads are different now to what would have been when these were used. The tips themselves are actually quite thick gauge solid copper, and the fittings at the end are brass. We could try and get $5 the pair, but you know, there's almost $5 worth of scrap here because they weigh pretty well. So that's neither here nor there. I might just put them in the shop at $5. If they don't sell after a while, they can go in my scrap bins. We have a hammer head. Now this has obviously quite a small handle. It looks relatively unused. There's no bad markings to it. There is a brand on there. I can see a T, maybe it's Trojan, I'm not sure. I'll check that out. The face of the hammer is nice and neat. It hasn't been abused. And there's another brand on that side. I think we'll get $5 for that because it's branded. If it was a more modern piece, or, you know, if it wasn't branded, we wouldn't know if it's modern or not. But I think we'll go 5. We will clean that up and see if there's a brand on it, or see what the brand says. Okay, getting through, there's not much left in the box now. These are some sort of really severe looking trimmers. They're certainly not sheep shears. They're more like a, oh, I don't know. They're not tin snips. They're not heavy enough for tin. Maybe they were like heavy industrial type scissors for leather or something. If you know exactly what these are for, let me know. It's missing a little clamp here that holds the handles closed. But it's quite a nice style. I think it's got finger holders for your thumb and your forefinger. But you really need to do that. That spring needs to be stronger, or perhaps it just needs some lubrication in the pivot point. Quite nice shears. It feels like they're designed to be used horizontal. Yeah, I'm not sure. If you know what they're meant to be cutting, let me know. They're they might be, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have any ideas. But nice trimmers. I think I'd go $10 on those. They appear to be well made. Again, they're probably English steel. So yeah, $10 on the shears, we'll call them. Now, here's a splitting wedge for splitting timber for logs. It's been well used and abused. There's lots of chunks come off here. They are a little dangerous to use once they get to this stage, because a big hit with a sledgehammer and you can have some shrapnel flying all directions, and a big piece of steel wedged in your shin isn't very nice. So you have to be very careful using these things. I do sell wedges, but really that one needs cutting back with a grinder and neatening up around the edge. I guess it's a combination of years of impact plus metal fatigue, and it really does break up like shrapnel from an explosion. So very careful to use that. I still sell these wedges. I'd probably put $5 on it, but it certainly needs cleaning up before you use it. Another big piece of metal here. Looks like what they would call a dolly for panel beating. It just gives you a nice even round surface as an anvil to shape a piece of tin on. I think that's what it would be. I'm not sure what they're worth. I can't see any marks on it. I think we might put $10 on it. I think these would be fairly expensive to buy as a specialised tool. They're going to be a good quality steel because you wouldn't want it to crack or break. It won't be just a cast iron, because hitting against cast iron, you would have it would basically break up pretty quickly. So I think it's good quality steel, probably quite a useful piece still. So we'll go 10. Did I say 10? I think we'll go $10 on that. Last couple of things in this box. We have a really cool little padlock. It's very light. It's only essentially tin plate. Oh, it actually opens. It feels very cheap quality. Yeah, it doesn't lock anymore. But it looks quite an old one all the same. So I think we'll give it a little bit of a clean. There are padlock collectors out there. Even if it's not branded, I think it's easier $5 padlock. If we can find a brand, it's probably $10. Even though it doesn't work, well, it doesn't lock, and I don't have a key. But we'll give that a clean up and fine tune our price later. And the last thing in our little foam box is a heap of drill bits. And I get a lot of drill bits in my shed clean out. Some of them are quite often blunt and broken and used and abused. Sometimes I'll get some that have never been used. That's a masonry drill, that one. The rest of them are just normal high-speed steel drills. I've got plenty around that are good. I think I'll just put those in a jar, and as I get a jar full of them, I'll just sell them for $10 as they are. They're probably, most of the times, they're good quality steel. That one actually feels quite sharp, and quite often you can sharpen up a good drill bit anyway. So we'll just add those to a jar. I won't write down anything for this lot as far as these go. And now it's come time for the notepad, and I think my original $100 estimate was a bit out, but that's typical. I always tend to underestimate tools. I've got a few just to mention a couple of things of, but let's go through the price list. Most of it's the same. I did adjust a few prices, and now's the time of the video where I can correct mistakes, because I do go through these boxes for the first time. I don't pre-check them for you guys. I just make it up as I go, and sometimes my knowledge is lacking or I have a mental blank. These Engineers hammers, I did clean them up, and they're actually Australian made. They were Cyclone brand. So the one at 5 I upped to 10. The hatchets I kept the same price, but the better one here, I cleaned it up, and it is an English one, and I think it was, if we get a focus on that, I think it was Whitehouse and Sons Canock, which I think is an English one. So that's quite a nice little hatchet there, but I think $20 is fine on that one. It just did have a chip off the hammer part of it. The sit chrome spanner was right. The number 3 hammer. Now, that initial hammer that I said I didn't know what it was, I think that was actually a, same as this one, I worked out later, it was a panel beater's hammer. I probably should have realised this one when I first picked it up. But the other one, the number 3 one, I've actually sold today already. So I only filmed this morning, the introduction, and it's the end of the day now. So I did put $20 in the other one. Where was it? Oh, that was the number 3 one, that's right. So I did get my 20 for that one. And this one here, I put 21 as well. Couldn't find a brand on either of them. It looked like there was, but it was a bit hard. I couldn't make out any writing. More scratches than anything. But, and not only the panel beater's hammer, but I also sold the, where are we? The dolly. I ended up putting $20 on the dolly. I thought 10 was a little cheap, and it sold as well. So I've got $40 back out of this lot already. Let's go back to the list. The footprint wrench did clean up quite well. I didn't probably mention in the first part of this video, it's actually a pipe wrench. It's kind of the precursor to today's Stilson wrenches. And you can see the footprint brand there. Once we get a focus, yeah, it's a bit hard to see. They're English again, and that company has been going, I think, since the early 1800s or even the late 1700s. So that's the wrench, $10. I was going to stick with the price there. That panel beater's hammer's 20. The small footprint wrench cleaned up very well. I only really polish the parts where the brands are so people can read them. And all I did was just steel wool. I'd probably be better taking these home and putting them on a wire brush, but I wanted to get this job done today. So I think I left 15 on that one. The S-shaped spanner I actually went up to 15, and it cleaned up quite well, and it's a US brand spanner, this one. I think it was J.H. Williams. There's a brand on the front there you can see in the circle. So it's a nice looking spanner, so I think we'll get 15 for that. Do get a few US made tools, and we also get quite a few German tools, but the bulk of them tend to be English. What else have we got? Oh, the wartime 1944 screwdriver, I upped the price on that one to 15, purely because you don't really see very many, oh, wrong side, you don't see very many Department of Defence screwdrivers. So that one's kind of nice with the date on it. So I think we'll get 15 for that. The sheep shears, as I mentioned, the axe head, I couldn't see an exact brand on it. Oh, I've put that over in the shop already. It is English made. I couldn't see an exact brand. It had part of a brand, but it was too faint to read. I was stuck with 20 there. The spoke shave I upped to 15. I couldn't find a brand on this one either, but it did clean up very nicely. So I don't think we'll have any troubles getting 15 for that one. And the blade wasn't chipped. Even though it was a little blunt, it would sharpen up very nicely. So you could use that as a spoke shave again without any problems. The small hammerhead I actually upped to 10. Because it was so clean and it looks like it's never been used. It's a German-made one, actually. And if you see the markings on this side here, if we get a focus on this, and the light in the right position, it says DRGM, which is a German patent sort of register to say that it's patented. I think they used that mark up to about 1950. And on this side somewhere, it did have a brand, the other side around here. Which I couldn't actually identify. It looks like it's a T, and it looks like some sort of German word there. But I did a quick Google and couldn't actually identify it. Anyway, it's a nice piece. 5 was too cheap, so I upped that to 10. What else did we have? Just a few other bits, the shears, the splitting wedge. Yeah, so that's it. Oh, the padlock I put $10 on. There wasn't a brand on it. But it's actually an army green, and it kind of looks kind of cool. So I think a padlock collector would like that. It is very light. It's only made of light gauge tin, so it wouldn't be very strong. But it's a nice vintage one. It's certainly got some age to it. Could even be World War II era. So there we go. So what did our list add up to? Well, as I said, I was way under with my $100. I think we worked out at almost $300, $295. So one smallish box of tools, no scrap metal at all. Everything's very saleable, some good stock for the shop. I've already put most of it into the shop, and as I've told you, I've already sold 2 items. So yeah, almost $300. That was a nice unboxing. Just before we wind this video up, let's go into this corner of the shop, which is in the front window, and this is where I shovel the tools. This is kind of the men's section, blokes section, although I'd readily admit there's lots of ladies coming here looking for tools too, so it's certainly not gender specific, but it is interesting to see a lot of the husbands gravitate to this corner. So I like to spread a lot of tools out, all sorts of stuff. I always mention to you guys that I put things in jars and they sell quite well. I actually usually struggle to keep up. They always sell out quicker than I get some more in. I love the little pigeonholes. I get to stick a lot of spanners and chisels and all sorts of stuff in here. A lot of hardware, boxes of sorted hardware. I'll do another shop tour at some stage soon. But this little corner of the shop is very popular. I've got a whole heap of new old stock original wood screws here. Original packets. They're all English made and they sell very well. A few signs. It's getting rather full in here and I like it full. All sorts of bits of stuff, so as long as customers don't trip over and they find something they like, then it's all good. A bit more hardware, some fittings, all sorts of bits and pieces. I got these out of a box the other day. How nice are these? 1930s solid brass Art Deco doorknobs. Really nice. They would polish up fantastic, although I wouldn't like to see them too shiny. They'd look like reproductions. But even the backing plate's really Art Deco. I love that 1930s look, and very heavy. You'd certainly never scrap them. I've got $20 on each set. There's 2 of those. They should sell pretty well. And even some Art Deco brass escutcheons where they're just the keyholes around. So there's 4 of them. I think I've got $10 on those. Yep. So there you go. I get a lot of interesting stuff in here. Oh, I mentioned, I think earlier, I did have some concreting tools that were solid brass. Look at that. Rust proof. Solid brass concreting tool. And the other one is the expansion line, similar to that tool we found earlier. Was that today's video? That might have been another one the other day. I don't know. I'm losing track. I'm unboxing so much stuff. I'm having trouble keeping up. Hopefully you guys are keeping up though, and hopefully you're enjoying the journey. And so ends another day at the shop, and so ends another unboxing video. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm getting some good stock in the shop, and it's always nice when I'm pricing things at the counter during the day and customers come up to the counter and start picking up things that I'm actually pricing. It's really interesting getting old tools, and you know, a lot of people love old tools. I love old tools. They're such great style and great quality, very collectible and yet also very usable. So thanks guys, we'll catch you in the next video. I've got another load of e-waste, vintage e-waste come in. It's only a couple of boxes from the same lot I got recently where we had those old microphones. There was some pretty nice stuff in there, and stay tuned to my channel because that tone arm, if you saw that video, that tone arm is on eBay and it's flying. I'll give you an update video on that soon. Bye for now.